Success is not a privilege reserved for a handful of people born into favorable circumstances, nor is it the random generosity of fate. It is the natural outcome of an inner state of alignment where a person no longer lives in lack, but in fullness. Abundance, true sufficiency, does not appear as luck. It is a level of existence. When someone walks into a room carrying an energy of confidence and calm, they do not need to say much, yet the atmosphere naturally shifts. Opportunities, people, and resources tend to gravitate toward them because they radiate a clear signal, I am enough. Outsiders often look at this and call it luck, but in reality it is the inevitable result of a state of being. The difference between an abundant person and one who lives in scarcity does not lie in the number of hours worked or the hardships endured, but in the root of their mindset. A person with a scarcity mentality sees lack everywhere, lack of money, lack of time, lack of opportunity. When they see others succeed, they immediately compare and conclude that they themselves lack advantages. When faced with opportunity, their first reaction is fear of risk. When they think about money, they assume by default that it is hard to earn and hard to keep. In contrast, an abundant person looks at every situation as fertile ground for planting. The success of others is proof that the path is real. Risk is seen as the doorway to reward. Money is not a finite resource, but a flowing current to join. The key point here is the act of becoming. Abundance is not what you own, but who you become. When you become a being infused with belief, certainty, and a sense of sufficiency, the outer world has no choice but to reflect that. The person trapped in scarcity keeps chasing, trying to prove their worth through achievements, possessions, or the recognition of others. The abundant person allows success to come to them because they have become the kind of person success wishes to stay with. This is not laziness or delusion. It is the natural principle of thought and energy. Picture a seed. When planted in dry soil, lacking water and sunlight, it has little chance to sprout. Yet that same seed placed in fertile soil and given proper care will grow into a strong tree. No one calls that tree lucky. It simply had the right environment. Similarly, your inner soil is what determines whether the seeds of your dreams will take root. If that soil is filled with fear, doubt, and envy, every great idea will wither away. But if it is filled with belief, gratitude, and openness, then even the smallest dream seed can become a towering tree. The problem is that many people mistake abundance for some kind of magic that requires external proof before they can believe in it. They wait for the numbers in their bank account to rise, wait for others to acknowledge them, wait for circumstances to prove their ability. But this is reverse logic. It is not that you see abundance and then believe. It is your belief and inner state of sufficiency that create the outer evidence. This world operates on the law of resonance. You cannot attract what contradicts the frequency you emit. A person steeped in worry will only see more reasons to worry. A person carrying an inner sense of sufficiency will recognize doors that others never even notice. The truth is, there are no exceptions. Abundance does not select, does not show favoritism. It simply responds to the signal you send. If you still believe that fullness is only for those whom fate favors, you are the one closing the door in front of yourself. The universe is not rejecting you. You are rejecting yourself with a scarcity frequency. Once you understand this, you will no longer ask, when will I be lucky enough? Because that question was wrong from the start. Abundance is not based on luck. It is based on the identity you are becoming. What needs to change is not the circumstances, but the identity. When you are truly aligned with abundance, you walk differently, speak differently, decide differently. A steady gaze, a confident posture, a calmness in the face of challenge, all become signals. And when those signals are emitted consistently, reality has no choice but to mirror that exact frequency. From there, success, money, and opportunity find their way to you, not because you are lucky, but because you have become a magnet for them. Once you grasp this principle, you will stop chasing success. The act of chasing is proof that you do not yet believe you are enough, and that very state of lack prolongs the lack. But when you exist in complete belief that abundance already resides within you, no longer worry about timing. You know you are planting the right seed in the right soil, and time is simply the condition for the tree to grow. The difference between a hopeful person and an abundant one lies here. The hopeful needs evidence to believe. The abundant takes belief itself as evidence, and the external proof will follow. Abundance, therefore, is not a game of fortune. It is a state of being that you can consciously cultivate. When you understand and practice this, you will realize that luck is merely the name outsiders give to a law they do not yet understand. But once you grasp, the law will no longer depend on randomness. You step into life with the certainty that you are already enough, and from that state, everything missing will naturally come to you. This is not fantasy, but the natural reflection of a new identity. If this video inspired you, hit that like button to spread the positive energy and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on life-changing insights. But don't stop there. I want to hear from you. Comment below and share your biggest takeaway or the one step you're committing to today. And make sure to turn on the notification bell, because the next video will reveal powerful strategies to break your limits and unlock your best self. We're building a community of action takers and dreamers, and I want you to be part of it. People often misunderstand that the harder they struggle, the more they force themselves, the more they strain, the more results will come. That belief stems from a flawed root, the scarcity mindset. It makes many equate success with exhaustion, with fighting for scraps of opportunity, with the obsession that life is a race that never has enough room for everyone. This mindset not only creates pressure, but also becomes an invisible barrier that blocks abundance from entering. The scarcity mindset operates on a single assumption: not enough. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough opportunity, not enough ability. And when that belief takes root, every action arises from the fear of loss. Scarcity-driven people do not work out of passion or vision, but out of fear of falling behind, of being left behind. They build their careers like defensive walls, always on guard, always comparing. This approach creates a vicious cycle. The more they strain to prove themselves, the more they reinforce the belief, I am not enough. The more they reinforce that belief, the more they attract situations that confirm the lack. The greatest mistake of the scarcity mindset is that it distorts the essence of effort. Effort is originally meant to be the natural expression of inner energy, but in the hands of those trapped in scarcity, it turns into compulsion, as if they must march onto a battlefield every single day. They believe that to have anything, they must seize it from others. In that race, comparison becomes the only measure. The moment they see someone surge ahead, they immediately think they are falling behind. And the result of comparison is always bitterness, because there will always be someone faster, richer, more prominent. Behind the shell of determination in the scarcity mindset lies a fragile truth: fear. Fear that if they stop, they will lose everything. Fear that if they do not compete at all costs, they will be left with nothing. Thus, they push themselves endlessly, yet rarely taste a sense of fulfillment. Their minds resemble a cup with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much is poured in, it never fills. What they lack is not external resources, but the inner belief that supply is infinite. From the outside, one could be mistaken by looking only at actions. Scarcity-driven individuals also work tirelessly, also stay up late and wake early, also sweat just as much as anyone else. But the difference lies in their motive. The abundant person acts from the state of, I am enough and I want to express more, so their effort is creative, expansive. The scarcity-driven person acts from the state of, I am lacking and I must compensate, so their effort is forced, draining, and wears down the spirit. One exerts effort in flow, the other in resistance. When observed closely, you will notice familiar signs of scarcity mindset in everyday life. An employee refuses a new opportunity because they believe they are not skilled enough. An entrepreneur constantly watches competitors, fearing the loss of customers instead of focusing on creating value. A young person sees someone else succeed and immediately concludes that it is too late for them. Each of these behaviors at its core stems from the same limiting belief: the world has no space for me. QSO. The misdirection of effort under scarcity mindset not only exhausts the individual, but also distorts how they perceive others. Instead of seeing others' success as inspiration, they see it as a threat. Instead of rejoicing at opportunity, they find reasons to fear. Instead of building partnerships, they close off their hearts, convinced that if someone else wins, it means they lose. This very belief impoverishes their inner world and creates a corresponding reality full of competition, little sharing, frequent conflict. It is important to distinguish clearly abundance does not mean passivity. Abundant people do not sit around waiting for luck to knock. They also work, contribute, and pour out energy. But the difference lies in how they define effort. For them, effort is not the straining to compensate for lack, but the natural expression of fullness. They act because they see value, because they want to expand, because they know the inner stream keeps flowing. And that is precisely what makes them more patient, more creative, more resilient. The second mistake of the scarcity mindset is equating self-worth with temporary outcomes. Scarcity-driven people ask themselves, if I fail, who will I be? If I lose this opportunity, what value will I have left? They place their entire identity on the scale of a short-term result, and when the scale tips, they panic. The abundant are different. They know their self-worth does not depend on one success or one failure. Their identity is the solid foundation, and results are only layers built upon it. This very difference is what keeps them from being crushed by adversity. There is a paradox worth noting. The more tightly people cling to the belief of lack, the more they create a reality of lack. Those who believe money is hard to earn will only see evidence that confirms it. Those who believe opportunities are rare will miss the doors right in front of them. Scarcity mindset turns the brain into a filter, allowing only images of lack to enter. This is why many spend their entire lives striving without ever escaping the loop. To break free from that mistake, the first step is not to do more, but to ask again, which belief is leading me? When someone begins to examine the subconscious programs instilled since childhood, sayings like, money is hard to make, or everyone must fight to secure a place, they realize that many truths were nothing more than suggestions planted into them. Until those old beliefs are recognized, they will continue going the wrong way, pouring effort into paths that lead to dead ends. Scarcity mindset is not destiny. It is merely a habit of thought. That habit can be changed, but only if we are conscious enough to see it. Misguided effort only breeds more fatigue. Only when effort is grounded in fullness does it bear fruit. Therefore, instead of asking, how can I strain harder, the right question is, from where am I acting? From lack or from sufficiency? When the question changes, the direction changes. And when the direction changes, effort becomes wings rather than a burden. Every result you see in life, the money you have, the job you hold, the relationships you maintain, is not a random event. They are not the arrangement of luck, but the honest reflection of what lies within you. The outer reality performs only one function: to respond to the beliefs, expectations, and mental states you carry inside. If the inside is full of fear, the outside will present situations that reinforce that fear. If the inside is full of belief, the world around you will find ways to confirm that belief. This may seem hard to believe for many because they were taught that circumstances decide destiny. They believe environment, background, society, and opportunity are the determining factors of their lives. But when you look deeper, you will see two people living in the same circumstances can create two completely different results. One sees difficulty as an obstacle, while the other views it as a leverage point to build strength. One stands before a closed door and concludes that there is no way, while the other believes the door is only waiting for the right knock to open. The difference does not lie in the door, but in the perspective and the belief behind it. The mind is like a lens. It does not change the world, but it shapes how you perceive and choose within that world. A gray lens makes every scene gloomy, even when the sky is bright. A clear lens makes every detail vivid, even when the light is dim. When the mind is programmed by fear and lack, you will only recognize more reasons to reinforce the belief in scarcity. When the mind is trained in openness, you will discover opportunities others have missed. The world does not change. It is how you look that makes everything different. Those who believe external results are more important than internal beliefs often live as victims of circumstances. They wait for money to appear before allowing themselves to feel wealthy. They wait for opportunity to knock before daring to believe they are capable. They wait for others to acknowledge them before daring to live true to themselves. But that is reverse logic. The outside world is only a mirror. The mirror never smiles first. It only reflects the face you are already wearing. If you wait for the mirror to smile before you smile back, you will wait forever. This understanding is not merely philosophical. It is a practical law. When you carry the mindset that everything is difficult, you will choose actions that indeed make everything more difficult. You avoid opportunities, delay decisions, and unconsciously reinforce weak results. When you carry the mindset that everything is possible, you will step forward faster, be willing to accept risk, and open paths that once seemed blocked. External results reflect internal beliefs so subtly that you often fail to notice. A person who believes they are unworthy of love will unconsciously behave in ways that push others away, then conclude, "See, no one stays with me." A person who believes money is hard to earn will choose a safe but stagnant job, then sigh. Indeed, life makes it impossible to be rich. Belief leads to choice. Choice creates reality. Reality reinforces belief. This closed loop is the reason many repeat the same tragedy over and over. If results are reflections, then change must begin at the root from within. You cannot force the mirror to reflect a different image by begging it. You can only change your own face. So instead of pouring energy into patching circumstances, pause and ask yourself, which belief is directing me? What am I expecting? What frequency am I broadcasting? The answers to these questions matter more than any external upheaval. Once you grasp the law of reflection, you will stop blaming the world. You will no longer lay fault on society, on the economy, on the people around you. Instead, you begin to observe the inside like an architect inspecting the foundation before building a house. If the foundation is confidence, the outer walls will stand firm. If the foundation is doubt, the outer structure will inevitably crack. Changing inner belief is not an easy task, but it is the only task that creates lasting transformation. To see this clearly, observe abundant people. Before they had much money, they already behaved like the wealthy. They knew how to manage, how to appreciate, how to expand. Before they became prominent, they already carried themselves with confidence, daring to step forward. Before opportunities came, they already believed opportunities were always around them. That inner state compelled the outer reality to align accordingly. In contrast, those in scarcity think, when I have proof, then I will believe, and because they do not believe, proof never appears. Results are multiplication, not addition. Every belief you hold multiplies in your life. A small belief in lack multiplies into countless cautious decisions, producing a chain of poor results. A wide-open belief multiplies into many bold actions, producing a chain of abundant results. Therefore, the key is not to stockpile external evidence, but to sow the right internal belief. When you understand the principle of reflection, you step out of the spiral of misguided effort. Instead of frantically searching outside, you invest within. Instead of chasing evidence, you create evidence. Instead of living as a victim of circumstances, you live as the architect of circumstances. And this shift does not just change a few results, it changes the entire way you show up in the world. External results are only the mirror. The real question is, how deeply are you willing to change your own face? Because once you change from the root, the mirror has no choice but to reflect a new image, the image of the abundant person you have become. Every journey of transformation begins with a single point awareness. Without awareness, you cannot correct, nor can you recreate your life. And awareness does not stop at knowing where you are. It is also the ability to shine light into the deepest layers where the subconscious quietly operates and determines most of your actions, choices, and outcomes. The subconscious is the invisible gatekeeper. It does not argue, it does not reason, it does not distinguish right from wrong. It only takes orders from what you have heard, believed, and repeated often enough to become an inner truth. Unfortunately, most of those orders were not consciously chosen by you, but planted by environment, family, and society since childhood. Phrases like money is hard to earn, the rich are often dishonest, opportunities don't come to people like us, have rooted themselves in the unconscious. They function like pre-installed software, automatically deciding how far you dare to try what you believe in and what you reject. To cultivate abundance, you must begin by examining this entire programming archive. No system can run smoothly if the software is faulty. You may set goals, write plans, force yourself to work 15 hours a day, but if the subconscious still believes you are unworthy, the outcome can only be failure or self-sabotage at the last minute. And you will stand bewildered, asking, why did I try so hard and still fail? The answer lies in the deep layer you never dared to touch. Observe your current reality, the balance in your account, the state of your job, the quality of your relationships. None of these are random. They are snapshots of your subconscious at this moment. The subconscious believes you can only earn a certain amount and you live right within that frame. The subconscious believes love always comes with pain and you unconsciously choose relationships that prove it. The subconscious believes opportunity only comes to the lucky, and you miss countless openings because you don't dare step in. The painful truth is that most people live their entire lives without ever questioning these beliefs. They accept them as immutable laws. They reason that others are the same, society is like that, everyone struggles. This consensus reinforces the subconscious day by day. It is like a closed loop. You believe something. You act in accordance with that belief. You receive a corresponding result, and that result reinforces the original belief. The breaking point of the loop only appears when you dare to ask, is this belief truly mine or just a program I inherited? That question is like a beam of light shining into a room long dark and untouched. At first, you may feel confused, even overwhelmed by the layers of old dust. But only when the light is turned on do you have the chance to clean and replace. Without reflecting on the subconscious, every effort is like changing clothes on a sick body without treating the root cause. Reflecting on the subconscious does not mean digging up the past to assign blame. It is the conscious act of recognition. Which old commands am I running on? Do they serve me or hinder me? A person taught from childhood that only hard work has value will unconsciously reject ease even when favorable opportunities arise. A person raised to believe I am unlucky will block their own path, finding reasons not to move forward. And all of this happens without them realizing the subconscious hand is pulling the strings. When you start observing, you will see the subconscious revealing itself in the smallest reactions. Hearing news of someone's success, do you immediately feel envy or inspiration? Standing before a new opportunity, do you think, what if I fail? Or what if I succeed? Each of these moments is a window into the hidden commands of subconscious. And if you pay close enough attention, you will trace them back to their roots. The first task of awareness is to stop letting the subconscious automatically lead. It is like moving from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. At first, your hands may tremble, the road may seem unfamiliar, but if you continue observing and adjusting, you will gradually take control of the wheel. Each time the subconscious whispers, impossible, you have the chance to ask, why not? Who said so? Each time the subconscious declares, money is hard to earn, you can try replacing it with money flows to those who create value. It is this repeated questioning that opens the cracks through which new beliefs can be implanted. No one can change the subconscious overnight. It is the construction of years, even decades, built from every word, every experience, every repetition. But precisely because it was built through repetition, it can also be dismantled and rebuilt through repetition. And that process begins only when you are conscious enough to observe yourself. Awareness is the gateway of all transformation. Once the light shines in, you cannot pretend not to see. Once you see, you must choose either continue living by the old commands or courageously dismantle and reprogram. The door to abundance will not open by dreaming nor by blind effort. It opens when you look directly into your own mind, recognize the artificial limits, and choose to replace them with new truths. From that moment on, you are no longer a victim of the subconscious, but the architect of it. And when the inner foundation changes, the entire outer structure is compelled to change with it. No one can escape a dark room if they do not realize they are in it. The scarcity mindset is the same. It seeps into every reaction, every habit, every choice, yet hides so cleverly that most people mistake it for natural personality. In truth, it is nothing more than pre-programmed patterns, and to step into the state of abundance, first step is to correctly name each sign of scarcity that is governing your life. The first and most obvious sign is envy at the success of others. When you see someone advance, do you feel threatened instead of inspired? When you see friends buy houses or cars, do you feel as though you are falling behind? That is a direct signal that you still believe life's pie is limited. That someone else having more automatically means your share is cut smaller. An abundant person does not think this way. For them, the success of others is simply proof that the path is absolutely possible. They use it as motivation, as a flame that spreads. Envy, on the other hand, is only a silent confession. I do not believe I can. Another sign, fear when faced with action. Have you ever wanted to start a project but then stopped yourself because you feared failure? Have you ever refused an opportunity because you believed one mistake would cause everything to collapse? That is not reasonable caution. It is scarcity in disguise. Because at its root is the belief that you cannot rise after a fall, that opportunities are few and one loss means the end. Abundant people also feel fear, but they do not let fear decide for them. They see failure as the cost of progress, not as proof of incompetence. Excessive doubt is another form. Those trapped in scarcity tend to build fences of reasons to dismiss the very goals they have just set. They make plans, then immediately list dozens of barriers. They say they want wealth, but whisper, if you're rich, you can lose it all easily. They want opportunity, but believe, people like me never get chosen. This self-negation drains energy, turning aspiration into an inner joke. In contrast, abundant people see obstacles but do not assume they are reasons to give up. They treat them as problems to solve, not final verdicts. If you pay attention, you will see scarcity revealed even in everyday language. Phrases like, I'm never good enough, there's never enough money, opportunities are only for the lucky, may sound harmless, but repeated long enough they become commands the subconscious accepts and carries out. Abundant people choose different words. They do not deny reality, but instead of saying, I can't, they ask, how can I? That small difference in language creates a completely opposite direction. Scarcity also shows when you react to wealth and success around you. When you see someone driving a luxury car, do you feel admiration or do you immediately judge they probably cheated? When you hear a story of a successful startup, do you feel curious to learn or do you quickly conclude just luck? How you react is the map that reflects your hidden beliefs. Abundant people rejoice when they see evidence of prosperity because they understand the world has enough for everyone. Scarcity-driven people shrink back, building walls that keep them from stepping outside their comfort zone. Another sign is clinging tightly to the old, unwilling to let go. Scarcity-driven people fear loss, so they hold on to what is already outdated, a job that no longer fits, a toxic relationship, habits that only drain energy. They fear that if they let go, they will have nothing left to cling to. But that very act of holding on blocks the flow of new opportunities. Abundance only arrives when there is space for it to pour in. Abundant people understand this law. They are willing to release what no longer serves to make room for something greater. In addition, scarcity reveals itself in how you face uncertainty. Scarcity-driven people need absolute certainty before they act, and because absolute certainty never exists, they remain stuck in waiting. Abundant people do not wait for perfection. They trust their ability to adapt and to correct along the way. This difference determines the pace of life. One delays, the other advances. You may see yourself in many of the signs described above, and your first feeling may be disappointment. But remember, recognition is not for judgment, but for unlocking. When you name it correctly, you regain control. Each time you catch envy, you can pause and turn it into inspiration. Each time fear rises, you can ask, what am I afraid of losing, and does that truly define me? Each time doubt appears, you can challenge it. Is there absolute proof for this belief? The scarcity mindset does not disappear with one declaration, but it weakens when continuously exposed to light. Every time you recognize it, you open a slit of light in the dark room. Each slit, no matter how small, ensures the room can never return to complete darkness. And this very process of recognition will lead you to the next step, replacing scarcity with abundance, building a new identity no longer controlled by old patterns. Recognition is the first key, because you cannot fix what you do not see, and you cannot see if you do not have the courage to look directly. Once you look directly, the game changes. You are no longer led by unconscious reactions, but begin to live as someone who consciously chooses. And from that moment, abundance is no longer a distant concept. It has already begun to take root in your mind. Language is not merely a means of communication. It is the direct channel into the subconscious, the transmission line of commands that the brain receives as absolute directives. What you repeatedly say will gradually shape your inner world, and from there, the outer world shifts as well. That is why, to step from scarcity to abundance, from limitation to expansion, one of the essential keys is learning how to change the way you speak. Words carry energy. Every sentence you release does not vanish into the air. It touches you before it touches anyone else. A person who constantly says, "I'm always short of money, nothing ever works out for me, I'm never good enough," is sending the subconscious direct commands affirming scarcity. And since the subconscious does not distinguish between true and false, it only obeys. The result is that such a person continually encounters situations that reinforce those negative beliefs. Language becomes the invisible chain locking them inside a poor reality. Abundant people understand that words must serve the new identity. They choose affirmative expressions not to paint false illusions, but to plant seeds for the truth they wish to create. When they say, "Money flows to me through the value I bring," the subconscious accepts it as a command. When they declare, "Opportunities are always around me," the mind begins to search for signs aligned with that statement. Changing the words creates a shift in perspective, and from there, a shift in choices and actions. The transformation of language does not happen by mindlessly repeating a few mantras. It requires conscious observation of how you speak each day and the determined replacement of every limiting phrase with an expansive one. When the subconscious wants to say, "I can't," you switch it to, "I will find a way." When you are about to sigh, "I never have good luck," you change it to, "I create luck through my decisions." Each correction is like placing a new brick into the construction of identity. Changing language also frees you from the trap of negative self-fulfilling prophecy. How many times have you heard someone complain, "I'll definitely fail this time," and soon enough they do fail? Not because fate decreed it, but because their own words programmed their mind for failure, leading to hesitant action, weak energy, and inevitable collapse of results. A negative phrase is like an arrow you shoot straight into your own future. On the other hand, positive affirmations not only build confidence, but also pave the way for stronger choices. A person who believes, "I am capable of seizing this opportunity," will act completely differently from someone who mutters, "I'll probably fail." They walk with firmer steps, transmit a different energy to those around them, and see solutions where others only see dead ends. A single phrase can change how your body moves, how your eyes look, how your voice sounds. And those seemingly small details determine whether you attract or repel success. One of the most powerful proofs of language's influence is how you talk to yourself. The inner whisper, self-talk, creates a constant flow in your mind. If that flow is filled with negations, it will slowly erode confidence, turning you into your own obstacle. But if you train that voice to affirm and encourage, it becomes a companion, a fuel source that carries you forward. Observe yourself when difficulty strikes. What do you hear in your head? "I can't," or "I'll find a way." That answer is the measure of how far you have transformed your language. One point to remember: transforming language does not mean denying reality. It is not the kind of self-deception that insists everything is perfect. Abundant people still see problems, still recognize difficulties, but they choose words that orient towards solutions instead of reinforcing problems. They do not say, "I'm stuck." They say, "I'm finding a way." They do not say, "I'm exhausted." They say, "I'm learning to manage my energy better." The difference lies in direction. One closes the road, the other opens it. This process requires repetition. You cannot expect that changing your words once will turn your whole life around. But each time you correct a phrase, you carve a new groove in the subconscious. Over time, those grooves become the default pathway. At that point, affirming language is no longer forced. It becomes natural reflex, and from that reflex, reality shifts. Language also has the power of resonance. What you say affects not only yourself, but also those around you. A group that constantly talks about lack reinforces each other's scarcity belief. A group that consistently exchanges positive affirmations spreads openness. That is why, to maintain the transformation of language, you must curate your conversational environment. Stay away from dialogues filled only with complaints and negations, and seek spaces where words point to solutions, opportunities, and belief. When you persistently change your language, you will notice something strange. The affirmations that once felt foreign gradually become reality. The phrase, "money comes to me easily," may initially trigger resistance in your mind, but over time, you begin making wiser decisions, seeing more opportunities, and your financial flow truly improves. Not because the phrase is magic, but because it reprograms the subconscious, and the subconscious controls actions, and actions create results. Language is the key you use every day, either to lock yourself inside the room of scarcity or to open the door into the world of abundance. That door has never been locked. It is only waiting for you to use the right words to unlock it. And once you grasp this power, you will understand that every word you utter is not just a fleeting sound, but a declaration to your subconscious and to the universe. This is the person I am becoming. No one lives in a vacuum. Every thought, every habit, every choice is influenced by the environment in which you are immersed. Environment is not only a physical place, it is the entire mental atmosphere you breathe each day. The people you converse with, the stories you listen to, the information you absorb, even the small details such as how others talk about money, opportunity, or failure. We are like instruments. Each time the environment plays a note, we vibrate along. And if we are not conscious enough to choose, we will become replicas of the sounds around us. Beliefs are not born in isolation. Recall your childhood. You believed money is hard to earn, not because you had tried and failed, but because you heard it repeated by parents, neighbors, teachers. You believe successful people are often dishonest, not because you surveyed the facts, but because of the whispers at family dinners or in street conversations. The subconscious absorbed those sounds as self-evident truths, and you grew up within the frame that the environment had set. If you do not consciously recreate your environment, that frame will continue to bind you no matter how hard you try. Scarcity-driven people often do not realize they are breathing in a scarcity atmosphere. Conversations revolving around complaints, comparisons, and grievances become habitual. Negative chatter on social media seeps into the mind. The books, movies, and shows they consume are full of images reinforcing lack. All of it combines into an echo chamber where every sound repeats the same message. Not enough, can't be done, not for you. And then they wonder why their reality mirrors that chorus. Abundant people understand one principle. You cannot sustain an abundant mindset within an environment that only sows scarcity. They consciously choose a new resonance chamber. They seek out inspiring conversations where people discuss opportunities instead of complaints. They read books and listen to success stories to remind themselves that abundance is real and universal. They place themselves in rooms where achievement is the norm, not the exception. This intentional choice allows them to reprogram their beliefs without force. Environment is like soil for a seed. You may be a strong seed, but if planted in barren ground, it will struggle to bloom. Conversely, even an average seed planted in fertile soil has the chance to grow into a large tree. So the question is not, do I have enough strength, but what soil am I planting myself in? If you are constantly surrounded by people who are pessimistic, always talking about crises, failures, and unfairness, then even if you want to be different, your subconscious will be drawn into that frequency. Some may argue, does that mean I have to leave family and friends just because they're negative? The answer is not necessarily to cut ties, but you must know how much you allow into your mind. If your close ones always speak of lack, you must compensate by immersing yourself more in spaces that nurture abundance. Just as when you are in a polluted place, you wear a mask and seek fresh air to restore balance. The point is not severance, but management. In the information age environment is not only physical, it is also digital. The accounts you follow online, the posts you read, the videos you watch, all of these shape your beliefs. A person who spends hours scrolling through negative news scandals and mockery will unconsciously believe the world is chaotic, opportunities are rare, and people are untrustworthy. Another person who spends time on inspiring podcasts, self-development courses, and value-sharing channels will gradually reinforce the belief that this world is full of potential. The difference does not come from innate ability, but from the choice of environment. Environment also influences through collective energy. A group of friends who constantly talk about projects, dreams, and solutions generates an energy field that uplifts everyone. A group that only discusses failures and trivialities drags the whole collective down. You cannot sit in a smoke-filled room and expect to breathe fresh air. And you cannot be in a room full of scarcity-driven people and expect your mind to automatically be abundant. The remarkable thing is when you change your environment, your subconscious changes far faster than if you only try to change individually. The reason is simple. The brain learns through repetition and social proof. When it continuously sees others discussing opportunities, acting in abundance, living in sufficiency, it begins to regard that as the new norm. You no longer have to strain to believe because social proof is reinforcing that belief for you. Once you understand that environment is the resonance chamber of belief, you will no longer underestimate the importance of choosing where you show up. Every room you enter, every conversation you join, every piece of information you allow into your mind is like a note vibrating through your instrument. The question is, which melody do you want to resonate with? The melody of scarcity or the melody of abundance? Because in the end, you cannot sing a different song if the entire choir around you only knows one tune. But you can choose a different choir, one where the melody of openness, wealth, and sufficiency is already the norm. When you harmonize with that music, you will realize your new belief is no longer alone. And at that very moment, abundance ceases to be a distant theory and becomes the atmosphere you breathe every day. In the journey of seeking abundance, many people wonder what the simplest yet most powerful tool is to shift their inner frequency. The answer lies in two seemingly familiar words: gratitude. It is no coincidence that every spiritual tradition, every school of personal development emphasizes gratitude. It is not just a pleasant feeling, it is the most powerful energetic signal affirming to the universe that you are already abundant and therefore worthy of receiving more. Most people live with the habit of focusing on what they do not yet have. They wake up and immediately think of unpaid bills, unmet goals, unfulfilled dreams. Their minds are programmed to search for gaps. And when the mind only sees lack, it sends out the signal of not enough, and reality reflects back even more scarcity. This is why, despite much effort, many still feel that life is not improving. They are broadcasting scarcity, even while searching for abundance. Gratitude changes that entire logic. When you truly pause and acknowledge what you already have, you send out a different message: I am living in abundance. And when the subconscious hears that command, it begins to look for more evidence to reinforce it. A mind full of gratitude sees opportunities where others only see challenges. It notices connections, resources, small bits of luck that scarcity-driven people overlook entirely. That is why gratitude not only makes you happier in the moment, but also positions you to attract more things to be grateful for. Some think gratitude is a way of consoling oneself, of accepting the status quo and giving up ambition. That is a misunderstanding. Gratitude does not mean compromise. It is the foundation for greater aspiration. When you are grateful for what you have, you generate positive energy which expands your capacity to receive more. A discontented heart will close itself to opportunities, while a grateful heart opens like a door ready to welcome greater value. Gratitude also has the power to dissolve comparison, the scarcity-minded look at others' success and feel inferior, the abundant look at the same scene and feel grateful for yet another proof of human potential. They are grateful because the world is spacious enough to hold both others' success and their own. And because of that, they do not get swept into rivalry, but remain open to collaborate, to learn, and to grow together. Practicing gratitude does not require complicated rituals. It can be as simple as writing down 3 small things each morning: that you appreciate a radiant sunrise, a simple yet delicious meal, a sincere conversation. Each line is like pressing a button to adjust your frequency. At first, it may feel awkward because the subconscious is used to scanning for lack. But after just a few weeks, you will notice that you begin to automatically pay more attention to the positive. And when that happens, you have stepped into a different universe, one where abundance is the standard. For gratitude to be a powerful signal, it must be sincere. You cannot recite a few lifeless thank yous and expect the universe to immediately respond. The subconscious only believes emotion, not empty words. That is why when you practice pause and allow yourself to truly feel joy when you think of a friend who is always there for you. Feel appreciation when you think of your health that allows you to rise each morning. Feel lucky when you realize you still have the chance to learn and grow. That genuine emotion is the true energetic signal. Words are only the medium. Another remarkable point: gratitude is not only for the past or present, it can also be directed toward the future. When you are grateful in advance for what you desire, you are sending the message, I am certain it will come. Abundant people often say, I am grateful for the wonderful opportunities coming to me. Even when there is no sign yet, they use gratitude as a way to place an order with the universe, and because they believe the subconscious seeks to make it real. This is not daydreaming, but a form of intelligent mental programming. Without gratitude, you easily fall into numbness. You may achieve a milestone, but immediately dismiss it, focusing only on the next thing. The absence of gratitude makes the journey endless, never fulfilling. With gratitude, however, you enjoy every step, every result, however small, and that enjoyment itself fuels you to go further. Success, then, is no longer a distant destination, but the experience you are living right now. Gratitude also creates a special attraction in relationships. Everyone wants to be around someone who appreciates and notices the good rather than someone who only complains. When you live in gratitude, you radiate an energy that makes others feel safe, acknowledged, and uplifted. And you will notice a new cycle emerge. The more grateful you are, the more positive relationships you attract, and those relationships bring even more reasons for gratitude. Among all the tools for building abundance, gratitude is lever number one. It is both simple and effective, both a daily exercise and a state of being. If you ask, what is the fastest way to shift my frequency? The answer is begin with gratitude. Do not wait until you have more money to be grateful. Be grateful to open the path for money. Do not wait until you succeed to be grateful. Be grateful so success has space to arrive. When you truly absorb this principle, you will realize abundance is no longer distant. It is already around you in every detail, in every small gift you usually overlook. And the moment you stop focusing on lack and start appreciating what already exists, you send out the strongest signal, I am abundant. The world mirrors that signal by giving you even more reasons to be grateful. And the cycle of abundance begins from there. People often live by reversed logic. They want to see evidence before they allow themselves to believe. They wait for money to arrive in their accounts before feeling wealthy. Wait for opportunities before believing in their own ability. Wait for success to knock before daring to walk with confidence. But abundance does not follow that rule. It does not come because you see, it comes because you feel. Abundance is a frequency. You must align with it in your feelings, in your state of being, and then evidence gradually appears to confirm the initial belief. Picture a radio. Broadcast waves are always around you, but you only hear the channel when you tune into the right frequency. Music does not play on its own to convince you to adjust the dial. You must actively turn it to the right band. Abundance works the same way. It does not appear to make you believe. It only appears when you have already sent out the signal that matches it. That signal is feeling the wealth you sense inside, the belief you nurture in your mind, the certainty you embody in every gesture. The problem for most people is that they let external circumstances control their emotions. When things go well, they feel excited and full of faith. But when adversity arises, they immediately shrink back into fear and lack. Such fluctuations mean the frequency they emit is constantly interrupted, never strong enough to draw abundance in. Abundant people act in the opposite way. They decide to hold their frequency steady regardless of circumstances. Even when there is no evidence yet, they choose to feel abundant. When things remain unclear, they still walk forward with the certainty that abundance is there, simply waiting to be revealed. This is not wishful fantasy. It is a psychological principle that has been proven. The human brain continually searches for information that matches the beliefs it already holds. If you believe opportunities are rare, you will only notice closed doors. If you believe opportunities are plentiful, you will immediately recognize openings others miss. By deciding to feel abundance first, you set the brain's filter to search for confirming evidence. And the external results, which are only reflections, will appear one by one to reinforce it. Scarcity-driven people often ask, how can I feel wealthy when I have nothing? The answer is you do not need to wait until everything is complete before allowing yourself to feel. You only need to find small seeds. A morning cup of coffee, a fresh idea sparking in your mind, a warm conversation, each can serve as an anchor for you to feel abundant. When you train yourself to focus on these seeds, you send out the message that you are already tuned to the frequency. And when that signal is sustained, greater things are drawn in. Feeling first, seeing later does not mean denying reality. You still see difficulties, still acknowledge challenges, but you refuse to let them define the entire world. You choose to keep the inner certainty that abundance is always present, even in hardship. The abundant look at the storm and see an opportunity to build resilience. The scarcity-minded look at the same storm and see only proof that life is unfair. Two people stand before the same scene, but the frequencies they choose to feel are different, so the results they attract are different. One of the fastest ways to align with the frequency of abundance is emotional training. The subconscious responds to strong emotion more than to logical reasoning. If you can generate feelings of wealth, success, and fullness within your own body, the subconscious accepts that as reality and adjusts behavior to match. This is why visualization becomes such a powerful tool. When you close your eyes and imagine living in your dream home, feeling the ease in your breath, touching every detail as if real, you are sending the subconscious the message, this has already happened. And once the subconscious accepts it, begins working to make it real. But feeling without action is only a dream. Abundant people do not just feel abundance in their minds, they let that feeling guide their actions. When they feel wealthy, they act like those who know how to manage, invest, and expand. When they feel successful, they make decisive choices and dare to take responsibility. When they feel full, they enter relationships with a spirit of sharing, not clinging. These actions create external evidence, which in turn reinforces the inner state. A closed loop, but this time a positive one. The key point here is consistency. You cannot turn the frequency on today and switch it off tomorrow. Abundance only responds when you sustain a stable energy field. Each time you let fear and doubt pull you down, the frequency is disrupted. But each time you return to the state of trust, feeling abundance, even in the smallest detail, you are building a solid foundation. Gradually, feeling first becomes reflex. And when that reflex becomes your new instinct, abundance is no longer a distant goal, but the reality you are living. Abundance is a frequency. It does not wait for you to succeed before appearing. It requires you to choose to feel successful first. It does not wait for you to be rich before allowing you to think rich. It requires you to think rich first so that wealth can arrive. And when you understand this, you stop demanding proof from the world, because you already hold the true switch, the emotions you choose each day. Feel abundance first, and then you will see abundance after. That is the law that cannot be reversed. Nothing reaches the subconscious faster than emotion. Logic may analyze and debate, but emotion is the original language of the unconscious. That is why, if you want to reprogram yourself to live in abundance, you cannot rely solely on spoken words. You must learn to use imagination and emotion as two essential tools: visualization to create the scene and emotion to transmit the authentic signal. When these two elements merge, the subconscious no longer distinguishes what is real from what is imagined. It accepts what you visualize as reality and begins adjusting all your behaviors, decisions, and even physiological states to match that picture. Visualization is not a child's game of make-believe, but a psychological method scientifically proven. Top athletes use visualization regularly before competitions. They close their eyes and imagine every movement in detail, hear the sounds, feel their heartbeat, even smell the air of the stadium. When their bodies actually enter the contest, the brain is already familiar with the script as though they had lived it hundreds of times. That is why they react accurately, calmly, almost automatically. Abundance works the same way. When you consistently visualize yourself living in abundance, you create a new script for the brain to rehearse, and everyday actions will naturally move toward making that script real. What makes visualization powerful is not just the image, but the emotion that accompanies it. If you only imagine yourself owning your dream house while feeling doubtful inside, the subconscious will dismiss it. But if you feel the warmth of sunlight streaming through the windows, breathe in the scent of new wood, hear the laughter of your family inside that home, your heart vibrating as if it already exists, the subconscious immediately records, "This is true." And once it accepts that, it mobilizes all inner resources to turn that truth into external reality. It is important to understand that the subconscious does not distinguish past, present, or future. It only reacts to the emotional signal it receives now. If you repeatedly feed it signals of scarcity, it will program you to behave like someone lacking. If you nurture it with feelings of sufficiency, it will program you to behave like someone abundant. And repeated behavior becomes the bridge that carries you from the old identity to the new. But visualization must not be separated from action. This is the mistake many make. They dream in their minds but live contrary in real life. They imagine themselves wealthy but spend money carelessly. They visualize success but hesitate over small decisions. The subconscious does not only hear what you say, it also watches what you do. If visualization and action contradict each other, the message becomes confused. To reprogram successfully, your actions must serve as supporting evidence for what you already felt in imagination. A useful principle is to act as if. If you visualize yourself as wealthy, begin managing small amounts of money as though they were large assets. If you visualize yourself as a successful leader, practice making quick, clear decisions. If you visualize yourself as energetic, let your body move with vigor instead of lethargy. These actions send reinforcing signals to the subconscious. Yes, this is not just a dream. This is who I am becoming. Visualization and emotion also hold the power to dissolve procrastination. When you frequently imagine the moment of victory, feeling joy, pride, and relief, you are creating a pull that draws you forward. The human brain naturally seeks pleasant feelings. If the moment of success has already been tasted in the mind, you will want to move faster to experience it in reality. Instead of delaying, you are propelled by the positive emotions that visualization generates. For visualization to be effective, detail is essential. You cannot merely think vaguely, I am wealthy, I am successful. Be specific. Where are you? Who is beside you? What do you hear? What do you touch? How does your body feel? Each detail is a piece that helps the subconscious paint a complete picture. The clearer the picture, the stronger the belief, and the more naturally behavior aligns with it. It also requires regular practice. One visualization is not enough to erase subconscious scripts carved over many years. But if you spend a few minutes each day, in the morning when you wake and at night before you sleep, nurturing the new image with genuine emotion, you are gradually reprogramming the entire internal operating system. Like carving over and over on a stone tablet, eventually the new engraving becomes deeper and replaces the old. Some may ask, what happens if I visualize and feel, but reality still hasn't changed? The answer is, keep going. Reality always needs time to adjust to the new frequency. Just like turning a radio dial, sometimes it takes a few seconds for the signal to come in clearly. If you quit too soon, you will never hear the music waiting. Most importantly, do not rush to look for external proof to believe. Proof will arrive after you have maintained the inner state long enough. Visualization and emotion are the powerful duo of reprogramming. Visualization creates the picture. Emotion turns the picture into truth within the mind. When these two elements combine and are reinforced by consistent action, you are implanting into the subconscious a new command. This is me. This is my life. And from the moment the subconscious believes it, it will relentlessly seek ways to bring you closer to the picture etched within. Abundance does not wait for you to reach it before allowing you to believe. It demands that you believe, feel, visualize, and act as though it already exists. When you do, the subconscious will transform what was once an image and imagination into the reality you are living. And that is how you reprogram yourself, through the power of visualization and emotion tools that not only change thoughts but change an entire life. There is a frightening paradox in the journey toward abundance. Many are not defeated by external circumstances, but by their own invisible hand, self-sabotage. They have opportunities but do not seize them, have talent but do not dare to show it, take steps forward only to slam the brakes themselves. They think the world is against them, but in truth they are only living according to the limited identity their subconscious has already set. Self-sabotage is not deliberate action. It is an unconscious mechanism. The subconscious always has one mission: to keep your life consistent with the image you believe yourself to be. If you believe you are only worthy of mediocrity, then the moment an opportunity arises to exceed that standard, the subconscious pulls you back. It makes you hesitate, doubt, even commit foolish mistakes so that the final result matches the core belief, this is as far as I go. Think back to the moments when you were close to success. Have you ever, right before stepping onto the stage, heard a voice in your head, "Be careful, you'll make a fool of yourself"? Have you ever, when a project began to flourish, suddenly given up or found reasons to delay? That is the subconscious adjusting reality to fit the limited identity. It does not care if you are happy or miserable. It is only loyal to its role of keeping everything within the familiar pattern. The issue is that this identity is rarely chosen by you consciously. It is formed from family suggestions, childhood experiences, the stories you keep repeating in your head. A child who once heard "you'll never be good at math" carries that label for life, and even when they try to study, the subconscious finds ways to prove the parents right. Someone who once experienced rejection in love imprints the belief, "I am not worthy of love," and then sabotages new relationships with jealousy, fear, or doubt. Self-sabotage is not a sign of weakness, but proof of the terrifying power of identity, because people always act in line with how they believe themselves to be. Observe this: a person who believes they are disciplined will feel uncomfortable procrastinating. They must act to match their identity. Conversely, someone who believes they always fail will feel uneasy with success. They will find ways to ruin it just to return to their familiar safe zone. This explains why some achieve temporary success but cannot sustain it. They make money but quickly squander it or make poor investments. They find love but turn the relationship into endless drama. They rise to high positions but push themselves out through reckless decisions. Not because they lack ability, but because their limited identity does not allow them to maintain results greater than the original belief. The only way out of this loop is to expand identity. You cannot sustain abundance if you still see yourself through the old lens. Instead of trying to change results, you must change the answer to the fundamental question, "Who am I?" When the new answer is strong enough, all actions will naturally adjust to match. Begin by observing the phrases you often tell yourself. "I've never been good with money. I always choose the wrong person. I can only go this far." Each of these statements is not truth, but a verdict you keep pronouncing on yourself. And as long as you keep repeating them, the subconscious will keep you locked in the limited pattern. After recognition, the next step is replacement. Not with empty affirmations, but with new experiences. If you want to believe you manage money, well, start managing small amounts. If you want to believe you are worthy of love, learn to love and respect yourself first. If you want to believe you are decisive, practice making quick decisions in small matters. Each action is a vote for the new identity. The more votes, the more the subconscious is forced to update its image of you. At the same time, learn to recognize when the subconscious is pulling you back. Feelings of hesitation, the urge to procrastinate, sudden bursts of anger, all are signals. Instead of automatically obeying, you need to pause and ask, is this my true choice, or is it just the subconscious trying to keep me in the familiar zone? That question is like shining a flashlight on the hidden saboteur, and once exposed, its power weakens significantly. No one can avoid moments of self-sabotage, but the difference between the scarcity-minded and the abundant lies in their response. Scarcity-driven people let the limited identity continue to steer them. Abundant people see it, acknowledge it, then choose a different action. They regard each moment of overcoming the sabotage impulse as a small victory, proof that the new identity is gradually taking hold. Most importantly, understand that identity is not permanent. It is like a garment you have worn so long you mistake it for your skin. But once you dare to change it, you discover you can wear an entirely different form. And that new garment, the abundant identity, will gradually become your second skin if you persist in living with it. Self-sabotage and limited identity are not enemies to hate, but reminders that you have reached the threshold where expansion is required. They do not appear to defeat you, but to test whether you are truly ready to leave the familiar zone. If you choose to stay, the loop continues. If you choose to move forward, you begin to rewrite the definition of yourself. And when identity changes, external results cannot help but reflect the new image. Identity does not change through a grand declaration, nor is it formed by repeating to yourself a few times, "I am a new person." Identity is forged through repeated experiences, through evidence the subconscious continuously records. And on this journey, small wins are the foundation stones. They may not shine as brightly as grand milestones, but they hold the steady power to redefine who you are. The subconscious does not obey logic. It only believes experience. You can sit all day chanting, "I am disciplined," but if in reality you still procrastinate, the subconscious will sneer and hold on to the old image. On the other hand, if you simply wake up on time for 3 days in a row, you begin planting evidence for the belief, "I can control myself." Those 3 days are not enough to change your whole life, but they are enough to crack the wall of the old identity. And as you keep reinforcing with more small wins, that wall will collapse, making way for a stronger new identity. Small wins hold a special advantage. They are achievable. One of the reasons people often fail in self-change is that they set goals too far, too heavy. They promise to transform their lives completely in a week, and when they fail, they return to reinforcing the old belief, "I was never capable." But when you focus on small steps, you create a chain of successes sufficient for the subconscious to start leaning toward the new identity. Imagine someone who wants to build the self-image, "I am good at managing finances." If they begin by forcing themselves to save 50% of their income, failure is almost certain. But if they start with one simple action, recording their expenses every day for a week, they will feel a sense of control. That feeling is the small win. From there, they can take another step, putting aside 5% of their income into an emergency fund. Then another step, learning one basic investment principle. Each step, the subconscious records, "I am not the same as before." The key point is that each small win does not just change behavior, it changes the story you tell about yourself. Someone who once told themselves, "I never stick with anything," begins to change the narrative. "I have kept up the habit of reading 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks." Someone who once thought, "I cannot control myself," now has proof. "I completed my morning workout today." This new story, repeated enough times, becomes the new definition of identity. And the new identity leads to bigger, more fitting choices. Never underestimate the compounding power of small wins. A single drop of water on stone leaves no mark, but thousands of drops will bore through even the hardest rock. Similarly, one small action will not transform you, but hundreds of small actions will etch the new image deep into the subconscious. And once the subconscious accepts you no longer need to struggle, the new behavior becomes natural. There is an important principle. Identity is sustained only through consistency. If you want to become a reliable person, begin by keeping the smallest promises to yourself, from finishing a task today to not abandoning a habit you have chosen. Each time you keep your word, you lay another brick for the new identity. Conversely, each time you break a promise, you do not just lose an action. You are dismantling the very foundation you are trying to build. Small wins also neutralize self-sabotage. When you have a strong old identity, the subconscious will try to pull you back. But if you accumulate enough small wins, you create a chain of counter-evidence that the subconscious cannot deny. It begins to waver, and gradually it is forced to update its image of you. This is the only way to defeat limited identity, not through argument, but by creating new evidence, so the subconscious has no way out. A common mistake is to dismiss small wins. People crave explosive moments, wanting an instant breakthrough, but the truth is that every leap is prepared by hundreds of quiet steps beforehand. An entrepreneur signing a $1 million contract did not succeed because of one meeting, but because of hundreds of moments of preparation, practice, and relationship building. An artist shining on stage did not arrive there through luck, but through thousands of hours of solitary rehearsal. Great achievement is the peak of the mountain, but small steps are the path that takes you there. Remember, the subconscious responds to rhythm, not to explosions. It needs to see you consistent day after day. That is why, instead of waiting for a grand turning point, ask yourself, what small win can I achieve today to prove who I am becoming? The answer may be simple: finishing an unfinished task, focusing for 15 more minutes, refusing one bad habit. Each action, though small, is a steady step on the path of identity change. Finally, small wins carry great spiritual value. They nurture belief. Each time you make a promise and keep it, you strengthen the relationship with yourself. That trust gradually replaces doubt, and from there you gain the courage to aim for bigger goals. For belief is not born of illusion but of consistent experience, and small wins are the repeated experiences that feed that belief. Identity does not change overnight, but day by day, through each small win, each kept promise, you are rewriting the story of yourself. And when the story changes, the entire life changes. You are no longer someone living in limits, but someone steadily becoming the embodiment of abundance, sufficient, steady, and expansive. No river keeps water only for itself and remains pure. Water stays fresh because it circulates from the source through the flow to the sea, then evaporates into rain, returning to the source. The life of abundance operates on the same principle. It is an endless circulation between giving and receiving. When you only cling to keep you, block the flow. When you know how to give, you open the door for prosperity to return in circulation. The great mistake of scarcity thinking is believing that giving will leave you with less. Scarcity-minded people fear sharing because they assume the world does not have enough. They cling tightly to every coin, every opportunity, every idea, thinking that by doing so they will be safe. But the result is the opposite. Clinging cuts them off from the flow of circulation. They are like a stagnant pond. The water grows murkier, the smell heavier, and no one wants to come near. Abundant people understand a simple but profound truth. Giving is not loss, but creating space to receive more. When you offer value, you affirm to the universe that you are operating from a state of sufficiency. That signal is reflected back through new opportunities, new relationships, new flows of value. It is just like breathing. If you only inhale and never exhale, you suffocate. Giving is the exhale, and through it you create room to inhale the next abundance. This law of circulation exists in every field. In finance, you see it clearly in the concept of investment. Money multiplies only when it is circulated through buying, trading, business development. If you hoard it out of fear, it gradually loses value. In relationships, you see it in offering, listening, and understanding. The more genuine care you give, the more trust and connection you receive. In knowledge, you see it in sharing. An idea hoarded shrivels, but when shared, it has the chance to multiply, grow, and even return to you in a richer form. The key lies in attitude. Giving from scarcity and fear is entirely different from giving from abundance. If you give while secretly worrying, you will have nothing left that is not true, giving but disguised transaction. It emits the frequency of lack, and the result will only attract experiences that reinforce scarcity. By contrast, when you give with deep trust that everything always returns in a better way, you are emitting the frequency of sufficiency. And it is precisely that frequency that draws abundance in. An important principle to remember: giving is not blind sacrifice. You do not need to exhaust yourself to prove generosity. Abundance does not demand self-destruction, it only asks for circulation. Give within the bounds where you feel free and comfortable. When you share from willingness, the energy emitted is of high frequency. When you give in resentment or compulsion, you emit the opposite signal. The key lies in inner freedom, not absolute quantity. Practicing the law of circulation can begin with small steps. You can give a smile, a blessing, a sincere acknowledgement. You can devote a little time to support others with the abilities you have. You can share a book, an experience, a perspective. These seemingly small things are vivid proof to the subconscious that you have enough to give. And once the subconscious receives that message, it will adjust to attract even more value into your life. When you understand this law deeply, you will see that sustainable wealth is always tied to the spirit of giving. The most successful entrepreneurs, the most respected leaders all share this in common. They contribute more than they keep. They give ideas, give value, give jobs, give vision. And because of this, they receive support, loyalty, and constant expansion. Their abundance does not come from hoarding, but from creating ever larger cycles of circulation. It is also important to note giving is not only outward, but also toward yourself. Are you willing to give yourself the chance to rest, to learn, to invest in growth? Do you allow yourself to try and fail, to step outside your comfort zone? If you deny yourself these, you are also blocking circulation. For abundance does not distinguish recipient. It only reflects the frequency you emit. A person who knows how to extend generosity to themselves can then give to others without depletion. The law of circulation also teaches a subtle lesson. Closeness is the enemy of abundance. When you close your heart, your mind, your hands, you lock yourself inside a narrow circle. Giving is opening the door, allowing fresh air to enter, light to shine, energy to move. And once the flow is activated, you need not strain. Natural circulation ensures you always receive more. Take a look at your life. What state are you in? Are you clinging, fearful, tightly, holding on to what you already have? Or are you giving, circulating, trusting that whatever leaves will return in a richer form? Your answer determines the frequency you emit and the results you receive. Abundance does not come to the one who clings, but to the one who lets the flow pass through them. When you give, you become part of that infinite stream. And in that moment, you realize that prosperity is not something to chase, but something you allow to flow through you. Giving, receiving, circulation, that is the unchanging rhythm of abundance. People often think abundance is only a matter of mindset, that if they change their beliefs and adjust their thoughts, their results will change. That is true, but not enough. Because the subconscious does not only reside in the mind, it also lives in the body. Every experience, every memory, every belief is imprinted not only in thought, but also in posture, breath, and the way you move. You may try to think positively, but if your body still carries the habits of shrinking, trembling, shallow breathing, the message you emit is still scarcity. Conversely, when you learn to embody through your body and energy, you are not just talking about abundance, you are radiating it. Observe successful people, those you immediately sense have something special. Before they even speak, before you know their achievements, it is their energy that impresses you. They walk into a room with certainty, with a steady gait, bright eyes, and calm breathing. Their body transmits the message, I am enough. This is not an act, but alignment between the inner and outer. They have trained their body to become a channel of abundance so that energy spreads without words. The body is the loudspeaker of belief. If you think you are confident but your shoulders droop, your eyes fix on the ground, your voice trembles, the subconscious will not believe you. And if the subconscious does not believe, the world will not believe either, because people do not only hear your words, they feel your energy. That energy begins with how you use your body posture, rhythm, breath, down to the smallest gestures. To embody abundance, you must begin with your body language. A simple yet powerful step: correct your posture. Stand tall, open your shoulders, relax your chest, let your breath go deep. This posture not only changes the image you project to others, but also sends a message back to the brain. I am safe, I am strong. Scientific research has proven that body posture directly affects hormones and emotions. Just a few minutes standing in a power pose reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, while increasing testosterone, the confidence hormone. You are not just pretending to be confident. Your body is reprogramming your real emotions. When the body changes, energy changes. And when energy changes, you emit a new signal. The world responds not to the theories you hold, but to the energy field you radiate. Abundant people do not need to say, I am successful. Others feel it simply by being near them. Because energy does not lie. It reveals the true inner state, no matter how many layers of words you use to hide it. Energy is also tied to breathing. Scarcity-minded people often breathe fast, shallow, and interrupted. That breathing pattern signals to the body that they are in survival mode, always afraid and vigilant. Abundant people, on the other hand, breathe deeply, evenly, slowly. That breath sends a message to the nervous system, I am safe, I am abundant. By simply adjusting your breath, you shift from the frequency of stress to the frequency of abundance. That is why in every tradition of mind training, breath is always the gateway to higher states. Another factor is movement. Energy never stays still. If you keep your body sluggish and stagnant, your energy will also be heavy. But when you allow yourself to move, exercise, dance, walk briskly, you refresh the flow. Movement is a way to release old beliefs embedded in the body, a way to move out of stuckness. Every decisive step is a message. I am ready to step into a greater space. Embodying abundance is not only about good posture, deep breathing, or strong movement, it is also the subtle choice of the energy you want to carry. You can enter a meeting with the mindset, I need to prove myself, and the energy you emit will be pressure, scarcity. Or you can enter the same meeting with the mindset, I am here to give value, and that energy will be light yet magnetic. The difference lies in energetic intention, and intention is always amplified by your body. To truly embody abundance, you need to train your body into a new habit. That means daily practice, standing firmly, walking steadily, breathing deeply, speaking with clarity, maintaining steady eye contact. At first, you may feel awkward as if you are acting. But remember, a new identity always begins with act as if and gradually becomes truly am. Each time you embody through body and energy, you carve a new groove in the subconscious. Over time, it becomes a natural reflex. Energy also has a resonance effect. When you change embodiment, not only do you feel different, but people around you respond differently. They begin to see you with new eyes, offer you new opportunities, treat you as a new version. That feedback in turn strengthens the abundant identity you are building. You step into an upward spiral, new body, new energy, new responses, new beliefs, stronger embodiment. Finally, remember that the body is not a mindless servant, but a partner in the journey of abundance. It holds memories, stores beliefs, but also has the ability to reprogram and transmit new signals. When you know how to use your body to embody through posture, breath, movement, energy, you open another powerful channel alongside the mind. And only when both are aligned does abundance become a state of living, not just a concept in the head. Abundance is not only what you think, but what you radiate. Others do not just hear you, they feel you. And when you embody through the body and energy of sufficiency, you no longer need to persuade anyone. You become living proof that abundance is real, present, a flow circulating within you. Abundance does not come to the hesitant. It is not for those who stand at the crossroads, endlessly weighing, measuring, waiting for absolute certainty, because absolute certainty never exists. Success, opportunity, abundance, all come to those who dare to decide, dare to take risks, and above all, dare to trust in their own ability. The scarcity-minded often live trapped in